right, so here's the table that we use. I'm going to make this as a resource video lesson for you to look back to how do we make a function rule if we're given a function table. So as you can see on the left, we have a function table here that's made up of a domain column and a range column. And our first step to take this from table to rule is to find the slope. Now, slope is used for the letter M in algebra, and it's defined as the change in y compared to the change in x. It's a ratio of the change in y compared to the change in x. So we need to find how my table is changing according to the y-axis. So I'm going to go to the y column. I'm going to start at my first output value of -1 and see what change occurred from a -1 to my following output of a 1. And that would be an increase of 2. I'm going to follow this down to the next set, and a 1 changed to a 5. So that would be a change of a +4. My 5 to a 7 is a change of 2. And my 7 to 11 is a change of 4. So I can see that this column that I'm finding my changes is my y column, and it seems to be alternating change. So I'm going to now move over to the change in x to do a little bit more discovery. So the change in x would be located on the left side where my domain values are. So a -4 changing to a -2 shows an increase of 2. A -2 changing to a +2 shows an increase of 4. A 2 to a +4 shows an increase of +2 or +2. And then 4 to an 8 shows an increase of 4. So now, since I have a changing y and a changing x, I'm going to quickly make another column here that shows me the slope, the m, for each one of these consecutive pairs of ordered points. So my first stage shows that I have an increase of 2 on the y, and I have an increase of 2 on the x. My next consecutive pairs would be an increase of 4 on the y with respect to an increase of 4 on the x. And following that pattern, the next set would be 2 is the change in my y compared to my change in x. And then my last set, change in y compared to change in x. And I'm going to go back and I have to simplify all of these down to their simplified form. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I can see that the slope stays constant between any 2 points as it has a slope of 1. So my numerator is either changing +2 compared to my denominator of +2, or I could have seen that my y was changing by 4 and my x was changing by 4. But either one that I use, I can see that my slope turns out to be 1. So I need to remember that my slope is 1. I'm going to use that in my final build. Step 2, finding figure 0. So figure 0 is also called the y-intercept, and it's listed as an ordered pair. The y-intercept is when the x value is 0, we need to find the y value, and that y value is going to represent our constant term of our equation, which is known as letter b. So to find figure 0, I need to locate where the x value is 0. So I'm going to look down my x column to see if I was given a 0 ordered pair, and I was not. So I need to find figure 0. So I know that figure 0 would be located somewhere in this range where the negative values turn to positive values. That means there must have been 0 somewhere in there. So I have to find the pattern. If my slope is 1, Therefore, it means for every one increase in y, there's a 1 increase in x. So if this side increased by 2, then this side would also have to increase by 2 to keep that constant rate. So if x is increasing by 2 and I need that slope to be 1, I need y to increase by 2. So if it's at 1, that means that the y-intercept would be 0, 3. And I found figure 0. So I'm going to locate that as 0, 3. Remember, our y-intercept is an ordered pair. Given the ordered pair of 0, 3, we need to extract the y-coordinate from the y-intercept, and that is my b value. That b value is the constant term inside my rule. The final step builds the rule. Since this table has a constant rate of change, I know that the equation will fit in the form y equals mx plus b. Step 1 identified the m for me. Step 2 identified the b. And step 3, I need to substitute the values of m and b into the linear equation. Now we do not leave in simplified form a coefficient of 1, so I'm going to take it and simplify. My final build would be y equals x plus 3.